Tonight, the world of love and hip-hop has been thrown into chaos. Whispers that once floated quietly in the background have now grown into thunderous roars, and fans can't look away. The internet is buzzing with what people are calling the most shocking scandal the franchise has ever seen. Hidden recordings. Yes, recordings are said to exist. Tapes that could flip the lives of Yandy and Mendeecees upside down. And shockingly, at the very center of this storm are none other than Kirk and Rasheeda. People are saying these two didn't just throw shade. They dropped bombs that ripped open secrets never meant for the light of day. The streets are alive with gossip, timelines are on fire, and fans demand answers. Could these recordings actually be real, or are Kirk and Rasheeda using them as weapons in this endless reality TV war? One thing is undeniable: the tension is high, emotions are unstable. And friendships that once looked unbreakable are now hanging by a single thread. The entire love and hip-hop family has been left shaken, and tonight the world is watching every single move. The room where it all began carried a weight, heavier than anyone could have prepared for. Every word spoken felt like it carried betrayal. Every glance across the table looked like it hid a secret. People tried to mask their nerves, but the truth was in their eyes that darted to the center of the conflict, where suspicion and anger boiled so fiercely it felt like the walls themselves were leaning in to hear. It all started with one statement. Just one sharp line, spoken with enough force to slice through the air like a blade. Nobody expected it, but once it left the lips of the speaker, there was no turning back. The room froze. Silence hit like a thunderclap. Faces twisted in shock, jaws dropped, hands covered mouths, and others clutched their chests like they had just been stabbed. The one accused stood tall at first, steady in their voice, cold in their denial. But no amount of calm tone could erase the seed of doubt that had already planted itself in the room. The more they spoke, the more the crowd whispered, their murmurs growing louder. Was this calmness the truth of innocence, or the practiced ease of someone who had lied before? Whispers turned into hushed conversations. Hushed conversations became open accusations. The entire gathering shifted into a battlefield where words became weapons, and even silence carried the sting of guilt. Suddenly, one person slammed their hand on the table so hard the sound echoed like thunder. They demanded the truth. That single act was like fire to dry grass. Instantly, the entire room was on edge. Hearts raced. Breaths grew shallow. All eyes locked onto the accused, waiting to see how far this confrontation would go. The accused scanned the room, desperate for even one ally. But every stare was cold, sharp, and unforgiving. Each pair of eyes cut into them like a knife, and the silence spoke louder than any word. This was no longer just about the accusation. It was about loyalty, trust, and secrets that had been buried beneath fake smiles and handshakes for far too long. Accusations spread like wildfire. One trembling voice accused not only the main figure at the center but also those who had defended them before. Old wounds reopened. Buried grudges reignited. People who once stood shoulder to shoulder now pointed fingers at each other, voices cracking with rage, hands trembling with memories of past betrayals. Someone shouted that this wasn't the first time secrets had been covered. The crowd gasped, their collective shock pressing down like a storm cloud about to burst. And just like that, the fire had spread too wide to control. It was no longer one person under attack. Everyone in that room was caught in a tightening web of lies and buried truths, each thread pulled tighter, suffocating them all. Then, a voice rose above the noise, calm, steady, but powerful enough to demand silence. And for a brief moment, the shouting subsided. The eyes in the room turned to this new speaker, who claimed they knew more than anyone had yet revealed. Every pause in their speech was agonizing, dragging hearts into a rhythm of dread and anticipation. And when they finally spoke again, their words were knives sharp, specific, damning. The details they revealed were so exact that the room physically shook with disbelief. People gasped. Some turned their heads away as if shielding themselves from the truth. Others leaned in closer, hungry for every word. The accused clenched their fists, lips trembling with fury, their voice struggling to form words strong enough to undo the damage. But the damage was done. Buried connections were exposed, hidden motives revealed, and the crowd was left questioning everything they thought they knew. The shouting returned, louder than before, anger mixed with grief. Tears cut across faces as threats, curses, and vows of revenge erupted. The room was no longer a gathering. It was a battlefield of broken trust. And then, when it seemed like nothing else could shake the night, the accused finally found their voice. But instead of denial, they chose defiance. Their words sliced through the noise, not because people believed them, but because their boldness terrified the room. They declared that this was only the beginning, that the truth would shatter not just one person's reputation, but the very foundation of everyone standing there. Gasps filled the air again. The energy was thick enough to choke on. People trembled with the urge to finally confess their own secrets, but fear chained their mouths shut, until one voice broke free. Shaky but determined, someone revealed what they had witnessed long ago, a truth they had buried out of fear. Their confession was lightning, striking and exposing shadows no one wanted to face. The reaction was instant and explosive. Screams, tears, even people trying to flee the room. The accused mask crumbled. Fury burned in their eyes, but behind that fury was fear. They were no longer in control. But there was something else in their stare, something that said this fight wasn't over. They still had cards to play, and just when it seemed like the storm had reached its peak, the door opened. An unexpected figure stepped into the room, and silence fell. Every head turned. Eyes widened. This person was not supposed to be here. Not supposed to know. Not supposed to return. But there they were, standing in the doorway. Their very presence enough to send chills down every spine. The crowd froze, waiting for what this arrival would unleash. And with that, the room was thrown into a whole new level of fear. The tension inside the set refused to fade. Every second felt like walking across shattered glass, sharp, dangerous, and unavoidable. Sierra stood stiff, her expression locked in fury, her hands trembling just enough to betray the storm brewing inside. Across from her, Erica leaned back casually, smirk painted across her face as if she was proud of the chaos she had sparked. Yandy's breaths came in uneven gasps, her chest rising and falling like she was caught between rage and humiliation, while Mendeecees shifted uncomfortably, jaw tight, eyes darting nervously as though searching for an escape. The producers whispered, frantically behind the cameras, realizing the moment was spiraling far beyond what they had imagined. They had filmed drama before, messy fights, screaming matches, even walkouts. But this was real, raw, uncontrollable. Finally, Mendeecees rose from his seat, trying to put himself between the women, his hands raised in desperation, pleading for calm. But the fire in Sierra's eyes refused to dim. She stepped around him, glaring straight into Yandy's face. Her voice cracked with rage as she hissed, "You want to play games with me? Then don't cry when the truth comes out." Yandy yanked her arm back, her voice trembling but fierce. "I've had enough of people like you trying to define me. You don't know what I've sacrificed." The words echoed through the room, and for a moment, even Erica stopped smirking. It was vulnerability exposed, pain wrapped inside anger. And it stunned the room into silence. But the silence shattered when Sierra suddenly grabbed at Yandy's wig, yanking it with a swift motion that sent shockwaves through the set. Gasps, screams, chairs scraping, the room exploded. Yandy stumbled back, eyes wide with disbelief, clutching at her head as humiliation turned to fury. "Cut, cut!" Producers yelled, but no one listened. The cast shouted, crew members rushed forward, and Rasheeda grabbed Erica's arm, demanding she stop fueling the fire. But Erica only shrugged her off with a grin, enjoying the flames she had lit. Yandy, trembling with rage and tears, charged back at Sierra, fists clenched. It took 3 people to hold her back as she screamed, "You think this is a game? You'd put your hands on me in front of everyone." Sierra snapped back, her voice breaking under adrenaline. "You've been playing games with me for months. Don't act innocent now. Don't act innocent now." The two locked eyes, chest heaving, bodies trembling, adrenaline surging like a wildfire no one could control. The cameras caught every detail, the humiliation, the rage, the pain, and everyone in the room knew this footage would change everything. Finally, producers forced a break, but the damage was done. Yandy collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. While Mendeecees knelt beside her, whispering words nobody else could hear, Sierra paced like a caged lion, too furious to sit still. Erica leaned smugly against the wall, arms folded, proud of the war she had fueled, and Rasheeda, disappointed and weary, shook her head at how quickly everything had fallen apart. Outside, the whispers spread like wildfire. Cast and crew were already telling their own versions of the story. Phones buzzed with texts, timelines filled with rumors, and the footage hadn't even leaked yet, but everyone knew it was coming. Back inside, Rasheeda's hand shook as she touched her cheek, the faint sting reminding her of what had just happened. She stumbled back, her voice firm but raw. You think this makes you a man? You think this proves something? Her words were aimed at Mendeecees, who stood frozen, lips pressed into a thin line. His silence louder than any words could have been, and then, in one bold move, Rasheeda went live. Her phone shook in her hand, but her voice was steady, her anger pouring straight into the lens. Y'all think this show is scripted? Nah, this right here is real. This man just put his hands on me in front of everyone. In front of the cameras, and nobody said a word. Within seconds, thousands joined her live. Comments flew faster than she could even read. Shock, outrage, demands for justice. Behind her, Mendeecees tried to block the phone, his face tightening as the realization hit this was spiraling out of control. Screenshots were already flooding the internet. It was too late. They want us to believe we're family on this set, Rasheeda cried, her voice breaking, but when the truth comes out, they stay silent. They protect their brand instead of protecting a woman. The internet erupted. Hashtags exploded. Bloggers clipped every frame. Some fans defended her. Others called for boycotts. It wasn't just drama anymore, it was a movement. Mendeecees snapped, his voice booming. You don't know what I've been through, what I've been holding back. His words sounded desperate. Excuses crumbling under the weight of millions watching. Rasheeda turned the camera on him, her glare piercing. So that gives you the right to put your hands on me? Say it to them. Say it to the millions watching, right now. His mouth opened, then closed. Silence. The silence that spoke louder than any confession. The producers scrambled, begging her to end the live, but she shoved them away. Don't touch me. Don't tell me what to do. Y'all let this happen. Now the world sees it. Across the city, Kirk paced the parking lot, his voice echoing with anger, fists clenched as years of resentment boiled over. Meanwhile, social media turned the moment into history. Clips spread in seconds. Memes, debates, hashtags, all of it, dominating every timeline. By nightfall, it wasn't just a scandal, it was cultural fire. Rasheeda sat in her dressing room, staring at her reflection, phone buzzing non-stop. Yandy vented on the phone to a friend, pacing in frustration, her voice cracking under humiliation. Mendeecees leaned against the wall, head tilted back, replaying everything in his mind, haunted by words he couldn't take back. Kirk sat in his car, watching clip after clip. Disbelief etched into his face. And across town, fans watched two live streams clash, Rasheeda telling her truth, Yandy fighting back with her own story, each word fueling a digital war. Mendeecees scrolled helplessly, realizing the damage was permanent. The city buzzed with scandal. Every barbershop, every restaurant, every corner was filled with whispers of Rasheeda, Kirk, Yandy, and Mendeecees. This wasn't just entertainment anymore. This was destruction. And no matter what they said or did now, nothing could erase it. The cameras had captured more than drama. They had captured betrayal, humiliation, and a storm that would haunt every single one of them, and deep down they all knew the same truth. This was far from over.